So hi everyone, my name is Dan Joseph. I work at the American Red Cross and I'm in the International Services Department. So a lot of you may know American Red Cross because of their blood drives or maybe their community safety campaigns like the Home Fire campaign where they put smoke alarms in people's houses, or their sheltering of people after major disasters like the hurricane that just hit Florida. But we're part of a global network of 190 some national societies, British Red Cross, Philippine Red Cross, Bangladeshi Red Crescent, that all are joined together in this global network focused on alleviating human suffering. So the International Services Department at American Red Cross works with that global network on improving the disaster preparedness, response, and recovery. I'm the manager of a small team meaning me and one other person, that focuses on how we use data and technology throughout that disaster cycle. Tonight I'm going to tell you a little bit about MapSwipe. So MapSwipe is an open source application available on iOS and Android, used for simple crowdsourced data collection, and it's part of the OSM and Missing Maps ecosystem. It's got a couple of different mission types that I'm going to go through tonight, but all focused on quick kind of micro tasks that people can complete to contribute to improving OSM. So I'm not going to go into OSM tonight. How many people know what OpenStreetMap is? Raise your hand. Oh, good. I think that might be everybody, which is great in a Geo meetup that's the case. If you were maybe peer pressured into raising your hand because everybody else did, you can go to welcome.openstreetmap.org, and there's some quick introductory sections that you can learn more. Also, if you need to refresh your talking points, there's some good ones up there. So MapSwipe started with just one mission, one project type, in which it shows the user 6 little squares of satellite imagery at a time, and it asks the user to tap them based on whether or not a certain feature is in that square. Don't tap if it's not there. Tap once saying, yes, it's there, twice if you're not sure, and then 3 if there's bad imagery like clouds or something like that. Usually this is used to identify areas where there's like buildings or roads, so some sort of development or settlement. The initial workflow that this was designed for was to interface with the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team Tasking Manager, which is a website tool that divides up an area of the world into a grid and allows mappers to check out one of the squares of that grid and map within it to coordinate a mapping campaign so that people aren't mapping on top of each other and creating conflicts in the database. This tool allows areas that are largely unmapped and potentially quite rural to be prioritized. So people can quickly select through in MapSwipe and tap those areas where there's buildings and roads, and then users on the Tasking Manager don't have to spend a lot of their time panning across empty desert and forest and stuff like that. They can zoom in directly to where there's buildings and roads and spend time tracing those, not searching through the wilderness. Recently, American Red Cross added an additional mission type, a building footprint validation. In this, it's that same one microtask screen at a time, but instead of showing 6 squares of satellite imagery, we show an outline of a feature from OpenStreetMap and the current underlying satellite imagery. In this way, we can go through and check an area that maybe a bunch of beginner mappers worked on and identify those buildings that were traced poorly. They didn't square their corners. They maybe mapped things that weren't buildings, like trees, thinking they were huts or something like that, and do kind of a quality control pass. It's really hard to see on the screen, but at the center of each of those, it's showing a little dotted line, the OpenStreetMap feature, and then the underlying satellite imagery. We have a lot of volunteers that want to contribute to OpenStreetMap, to humanitarian activities, things like that. A lot of times we might have them just for a short event, especially like a virtual event during the pandemic. And so you have to consider what can we do in like 10 to 15 minutes of training when somebody is on their computer, maybe not paying full attention, and then also you only have them for an additional 45 minutes. So this kind of quality control in the MapSwipe platform like works really well in that situation. You can train somebody really quickly. The app has tutorials inside of it that teaches them exactly how to complete the missions. And if they're mapped for 5 minutes, or are they 10 minutes? Like even that is a contribution. There's a couple of other mission types in MapSwipe. So this is showing a change detection. So in this case, again, like one screen at a time, just microtasking with the crowd. And it's showing 2 imagery layers. You can plug in like 2 different tile servers. In this case, it's showing a pre and post event, pre and post, I think, hurricane or earthquake imagery, and asking users to identify if there's been a major change. Some other creative ways that we've used this, rather than just helping prioritize like a large rural area for additional mapping, is partnering with Arizona State University, who's doing heat resilience, and youth mappers who are doing heat resilience research in Arizona. They want to identify mobile homes and other kind of manufactured houses, and so are trying to see how it works using crowdsourced volunteers to scan through basically all of Arizona and tap those areas where they see manufactured homes in the imagery, so they can then flag those areas and focus on them in their outreach and heat resilience research. So some of the things that we're looking to improve and some of the gaps in our process right now is like, what does a MapSwipe mission tell us? So we have all these mission types, and you get out, you can set how many people you want to review each scene or each feature, and then you get the results of like how many people tapped yes, how many people tapped no. But like when, how do you get from those numbers to like, this is good data, this is bad data, or like, this is, we're sure that a change happened here, we're not so sure this change happened here. Similar to like with the Saffir-Simpson wind speed scale, where like you talk to somebody and you're like, oh, like 90 mile per hour winds, you're like, oh, that sounds bad, but like most people don't know what that means. So that scale then translates that to, oh, at 90 miles per hour, you're knocking over trees and breaking windows or something. I'm not sure, don't evacuate or not based on that. I'm not sure that's what it is. But so how do we get from that data, those numbers of what this crowd has decided a feature is good or bad, to like, is this data good for a base map? Is it good for anticipator action and forecasting the impact of a storm? Like what level of quality do these numbers mean? So if you want to volunteer your time in looking at crowdsourced data and helping us interpret it, let me know. And the future MapSwipe is really open. It's a cool open source project, has a small core of developers working on it, but we're always looking for more volunteers. And sometimes when there's funding available, we are able to pay individuals or companies to do some additional work on it. And it's a pretty adaptable platform. I already mentioned like 4 or 5 different ways that it's been used. And we're looking at different potential mission types with that same kind of one screen microtasking at a time. Maybe we can use it to improve open source machine learning algorithms. Mapillary is maybe a street level imagery platform that some of you are familiar with. They, a number of years ago, used the crowd to like thumbs up, thumbs down a bunch of their image recognition, image extractions, and that people were really excited to do that and like participate in the leaderboard, and it was just benefiting one company. So like hopefully we'd see equal excitement or more when it's like a public good that we're helping improve or create. Maybe we can use Mapillary not just for aerial imagery, but also for street level imagery. We have that quality type mission where we're looking at features one at a time. Maybe we can also have a completeness type mission where we're not looking not just at what's already there, but how full the coverage is. And also like other ideas, like anybody with an interesting idea for how to use this kind of screen by screen platform and the crowd to improve geospatial data in OpenStreetMap, we'd love to hear it. So yeah, thanks for listening. I have no idea if that was 5 minutes. Get in touch. Happy to take any questions. My email is up there, and you can find me on Twitter as well. Thanks.
Any questions for Dan?
How do you attract users onto the MapSwipe? So it seems like you host a session and maybe like everyone in the session downloads the app. Is that the primary way you get people to use the app?
Yeah, so a number of the organizations that are involved in kind of either posting missions or in the general kind of maintenance and development of the app will usually reach out to their target audience. So a couple of Red Cross National Societies, so American Red Cross and British Red Cross are both involved in kind of the use and maintenance of it. MSF, Doctors Without Borders, uses the app a lot, and so we'll reach out to their volunteers and have events and things like that. So when ASU and Youth Mappers were doing it, they reached out to their network. And also we find that people organically find their way to the app based on its presence within the larger OSM ecosystem. So like people are on the Missing Maps website and find out about MapSwipe, or peered at a geo conference or something like that, and then go look it up and find it kind of addictive to just swipe through in their spare time.
Do you have a sense of the scope of the questions that you can analyze through MapSwipe?
So right now, there's kind of like those three, they call it the build area type, where it shows you the 6 images at a time, 6 little squares, and you can say, oh, tap if you see buildings, tap if you see swimming pools, tap if you see rice paddies. I mean, you could give them any prompt you wanted and then have a yes, no, unsure, bad imagery. You can load any OpenStreetMap feature set you want. So you can, if you have a GeoJSON feature collection, it could be, again, swimming pools, buildings, baseball fields, any shape you want, and you could have them look at each of those and it'd say, confirm, is this a properly traced swimming pool, yes or no, unsure. And then the change detection, you could say, do you see damage in between scene 1 and scene 2? Do you see deforestation? Do you see more forests? So you can ask the prompt, you can provide whatever you want, and then you get like the yes, no, maybe. And we're actively exploring and thinking about like how we might make that more adaptable, with balancing kind of that every time you add like a new mission type or you make it more configurable, that then you also introduce complexity for the user who you have to trust that they're going to take the tutorial or read the instructions and not just jump into what they did last time.
So my question would be, you mentioned already, I think it was heat resilience, if I heard you correctly. Okay. So can you give a couple other examples of natural disasters or weather events, just specific examples where this has been especially useful in your view, whether it's in a hurricane or earthquake or whatever?
So the bulk of its use, since it was first started a number of years ago, was just that initial kind of narrowing down of areas to map. So like here's a giant province in Africa. Like we don't want to have the mappers spend a lot of time looking through, panning on their computer across desert and forest. How can they quickly zoom into areas where there's mapping and then spend their time actually tracing features? More recently, so there's the Arizona State University Youth Mappers are doing the heat resilience mapping, looking for mobile homes, manufactured houses. Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team did some testing using the change detection, looking at pre and post event imagery in Haiti. I know I can't remember if it's earthquake or hurricane, maybe both. They're not, we have some bad luck. An organization that I don't remember at this moment actually did a test with false color imagery, looking at the at formation of settlements. So like very zoomed out, but just like asking people to identify if the bright colors showing human development had changed in between the two images. Somebody used it, an organization used it to request people look for deforestation. Yeah.
Any idea how many users are on the MapSwipe?
Do you log that?
I
Is
think
it an all none?
we do. No, I think it's several. I think it's at least several thousand active users each month.
So do they go on the app? I guess I can download it, but you go on the project?
Yeah. So when you load up the app, it'll have a screen that shows the active missions. Usually, it's between 3 and 7 from different organizations. Usually, a couple different mission types. You just click on whichever one you want. There's a tutorial that you can click and take, and then you can also just click to map, and it'll let you start swiping through screens.
It's also online.
No, right now it's just iOS and Android. We haven't figured out how and if to make it like laptop, computer-based, browser-based.
So Mapbots are really popular, so this would be kind of similar.
Yes, so I think it can be used in that same kind of, we're all going to get together and kind of talk about things and then spend some time contributing. I think a number of organizations, including the American Red Cross, that had done mapathons for a long time, realized that in most of those events, when you had 50, 100, even sometimes 200 or more beginner mappers, and you're trying to train them all at once to accurately interpret satellite imagery and contribute to the map, sometimes where there's already pre-existing data, like you ended up with a lot of work for validators and people to come back in and clean up. So for those events where you have a large number of beginner mappers, like I think most organizations are pushing them towards things where you're not directly editing OpenStreetMap, so that if there's a problem, it's contained, and also where it's a little bit lower barrier of entry to start contributing and learning how to do it. And hopefully, like if they get excited by MapSwipe, that then they take that step and attend. Like TeachOSM has a monthly, and OpenStreetMap US have a monthly map-along session where you can actually come and like ask questions and learn more about mapping. And in that smaller setting, like it's much easier for people to become comfortable mappers. Yeah.
One more question?
Dan, I've been inundated over the years with like satellite imagery, AI, reducing the task. Is there a workflow where that exists, where MapSwipe exists to help in that milieu at all?
So like right now, if you had a image tile set endpoint online and a feature collection that you had extracted from that imagery using AI, we could run it through MapSwipe and have a crowd like verify whether or not it is the feature and it matches like satisfactorily to the outline. Yeah, I think the whole like interplay between some of the AI ML and OpenStreetMap, like with how it is a community project that like we want people to be involved in. So like, where is the appropriate level of attachment between some of those machine processes and the database, and how can people make sure that it is accurate and that we still have tasks for people to do.
Yeah, that was kind of my question related is, and I think you can end it with this point because I know where I was at, is why is crowdsourcing important for AI ML? Like, because people will just go play around with algorithms with AI and ML, but is there some value with crowdsourcing?
So the question was about the value of crowdsourcing when it comes to AI and ML. The machines like still like aren't as smart as some of the sales people would like you to believe. And if they haven't seen that situation before, they're going to probably mess it up. And in some cases, like the algorithms are very biased. Like you've seen where some of the early facial recognition ones were all trained on like celebrity databases. So it's all largely very attractive and then white wealthy people. And so it misses a large segment of the larger world. And so making sure that we can engage people and have a diversity of viewpoints and experience and ideas is important. And also like having this platform allows you to have an entry point into OpenStreetMap and open data and lets people get involved at that lower level, and then some number of them will get more involved or like be inspired and take it to the next level. So not just, you know, pushing everything off on some black box machine and trusting that and leaving it in somebody else's hands, I think is important.
All right.
That was very fun.
Thank you very much.